crisp is the word of the day, because that is how I would describe this air.
We're in the mountains, but I think actually this is almost balmy compared to what I think it's going to be here in a couple days, right?
Well, I came from New York, and it's actually a lot colder there right now.
See?
So this feels nice.
So you're on vacation.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's a work vacation.
Just working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, working and having fun.
Tell us where we are.
We are in Park City at the 2026 Sundance Film Festival.
Sundance Film Festival 2026.
And we are here with Rachael J. Morrison.
Rachael J. Morrison to my right, to Ben's left.
Hello.
I'm walking down the center of some street.
We're actually walking uphill. I can already feel myself getting winded.
On your left.
You're listening to Dock Walks with Ben and Keith.
And up ahead of us here, we have Kim, who is supposed to be off camera, but we're going to put her on
She's
camera.
pretending like she's not there.
Hi, Kim.
Where would we be in the festival world without our publicists and our teams getting the word out?
True.
And today, Kim and director Rachael J. Morrison are getting the word out about Joybubbles, which you may notice from my brand new lid, which was courtesy of the Joybubbles team. So even if this episode doesn't go anywhere, I scored a free hat, and I'm pretty happy about it. So thank you, Rachael.
You're welcome.
I am so excited to talk to you about your movie because it is the kind of documentary that I love. It's about an unexpected subject that on the face of it seems like, how would you make a feature-length documentary about that?
Right.
And it's injected with this sort of playful archival usage and animation over the top of it. And I love it. I love the name, I love the subject, and it feels very surprising and fresh. So for our audience, would you give them a description of Joybubbles? And I'm so winded already. Are you guys winded?
This is a real hill.
We went straight uphill, Keith.
We jumped right into the episode. To be honest with you, normally there's a little more idle chit chat, a little more, some bad jokes.
I thought it was an elevator pitch, not an uphill pitch.
It's an uphill slog.
I think it's worth stopping and just flipping the camera around. We debated, why don't we take a leisurely stroll downhill, of which that is for a long time.
Yeah, let's do it.
And instead, Keith was like, no, let's go straight up this hill. So it's all your fault.
I didn't think
out of shape.
I didn't think you'd be complaining as much as you are.
Oh, okay. I was like, let's go back down.
I guess we're still going.
Then we're going.
We got to go up to go down.
True.
Okay. All right. So tell our audience what Joybubbles is about.
Well, Joybubbles is about a boy who discovered he could whistle a magic tone and hack into the analog telephone system. And he inspired this whole new history of tech and hacking through that process. But this was back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s.
I mean, the
and
description...
he was also born blind.
And by the way,
one more thing.
Mention that. Yeah, he was a lonely kid, and he discovered the phone, and he just became obsessed with it. So he creatively used the phone.
Kim.
Oh, you want to go down here?
His entire life.
So, all right, now that we can catch our breath here at the top of the hill. So it is about a blind young man who figures out he can use the phone as a means of communication, but not in the way that we would think.
Right.
More novel way, almost as like a musical instrument, and like unlocking it, hacking it in this way that before watching your movie I didn't even know was possible.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I also had no idea that there were people who hacked into the telephone system.
I'm going to jump in right here and say, I am one of those people. I cannot whistle like Joe
Engressia.
Joe Engressia.
Yeah.
It's close.
Joybubbles, he goes by. My freshman year at college, there was a kid who lived 2 doors down from me in the dorm who had a little device that he got by hacking together 2 different things you could buy at Radio Shack circa 1994. and we'd go to the payphone. You pick up the payphone. He'd play a little digital tone that went like, and it signaled.
Hey, who says you can't do it?
It's pretty close. It signaled that you would put a quarter in the phone, and you would just press the button like 7 or 8 times, and then you could call your folks back home.
Well, and that's basically
free
what
long
he
distance.
was doing, is getting free long distance calls.
That's actually
right?
called a red box.
Yes.
Red boxes would mimic the coin sound.
Yeah.
And then there were blue boxes, and that's what Joe would do. I mean, he could whistle the tones.
It was a human blue box.
Yeah, he was a human blue box. So the blue boxes were like similar devices to the red box, but it would use the tones that the telephone company used to control the whole system. You could hack into the phone with that.
So Joe is a young boy. He's born in the late 40s. He's coming of age in the 50s. He's on the phone. He's hearing and putting together how the phone works, and he's asking questions. That's one of my favorite parts in the opening of the film, is just, it's his curiosity to know that draws this information out of people on the other end of the line. You just start
He's
kind
asking
of
the
revealing.
operators and the linemen who are coming to like work on the phone lines. Yeah.
There's an incredible line that Ben and I both kind of clocked when we watch it. We'll come back to that. Let's put that in our pocket.
Okay.
But I want to know, before we get too much further,
Yeah.
that's the general, like the entry point to this film.
Yeah.
Joe, young blind man who figures out how to whistle his way to free phone calls.
Right.
How do you encounter the story? How do you first get involved? What is the birth of Joybubbles, the movie premiering here at Sundance?
I found out about him, unfortunately, when he passed away. There was a New York Times obituary about him, and I read the obituary, and I was just immediately fascinated because, like I said, I did not know that there were people hacking into the phone system. I didn't know there were hackers before computers. And then the second half of his life, where he becomes Joybubbles, was equally fascinating. This guy has a New York Times obituary. There's probably a documentary about him or a book about him or some kind of film. There wasn't. I just kind of sat on it for a while and was doing research about him, and then ended up meeting a friend of his, and then it happened from there. He introduced me to other people, and all of a sudden I was meeting all these people who were in his world.
Okay, so be honest, we don't know each other at all.
Yeah.
Have you been trolling the New York Times obituaries looking for your next big story? Is
Recently?
this where are you on the hunt for like who lived a life that I could tell?
It's a great place to look.
Yeah.
Now I'm giving away a huge secret that
My
I'm sure no one
secrets.
else has ever thought of.
Well, I know also from reading about you that you're an archival producer. So
Yeah.
people hire you to find archival material. So I would assume that often a place you're checking, and you are kind of always scouring around for interesting archival stories. Is that
Yeah,
right?
totally. The thing I love about doing research and archival producing is that you might find something that you're looking for, but then you're also finding other things completely unrelated to that. And I do clock those things and save them in a bank for later. You're looking at a newspaper page. There could be anything on that page. There's the article you're looking for, but then there's the article about someone who collects clocks. I'll kind of save things like that.
We can come across something like that and you remember there's an incredible clockwork sequence in some 1930s footage or some 1950s footage that you came across. Are you banking like those moments of incredible like industrial footage and home movies and newsreels?
Yeah, I mean, it's more like ideas that I'll usually find when I'm doing research, but occasionally I'll find footage that is also inspiring for something that I'm going to use in the future. But this film, the archival was very different from what I typically do, which is I'm looking for something very specific to sort of fill in a blank, if you will. But for this film, it was really like about finding archival that was emotional and not, I'm walking down the street, so I'm going to find archival of people's feet walking down the street. What's the emotion of the story that he's telling here, and what would be nice to look at so that you can really hear what he's saying?
The majority of the film is archival creation.
Yeah.
Like it's a recreate. It's not a recreation though. It's a creation of something new, something asynchronous, taking oftentimes voiceover or audio that has no visual attached to it, and filling and like painting a picture based off that.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm curious about what you said about the emotional archival versus like see and say. Give me an example, like, because that's a fascinating idea. I would assume that most archival could be considered emotional. Could you just tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that?
It's not as exciting typically if you are just finding B-roll to find something that is exactly what is being said. Like what I said before, like you're walking down the street and you just see like people walking down the street, like that's the archival.
Right.
But what if it's like, it's really sad? So then instead maybe you're looking at something just completely different. You're not looking at feet going down the street, you're looking at, I don't know, rain or something like that.
Yeah, what was the image at the beginning where he says the woman said, "Oh, you're very lonely," and she picked him up and held him?
Right.
And I forget what you cut to illustrate that.
I'm trying to think too.
I think it was like a rocking horse, or here, let's go up this way so we can, because this sidewalk is hard to walk through across.
Yeah, so that's not typically how I would work on other projects, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like usually I'm finding news footage, or I am finding something that might feel like a little bit more of a recreation, but through, told through archival.
So when you work with other directors who hire you to find archival, are they giving you like very specific, like, I want shots of a crowded New York street from the 1970s kind of thing? Or is it more like what you're saying, like, I want the audience to feel these emotions from this time period?
Well, if there's an impressionistic style to what you're doing.
Right.
And I think that's when you talk, that's what I hear when you say, basing it off of an emotion,
right.
This isn't paint by numbers, and now we've just got to find the exact color red that fills in, number 23 slot. It's an emotional valence that you're checking into, and you're having a reaction to the footage. And you know that if you add this footage with this audio, 1 + 1 can equal 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I mean, I would say that I don't bring like emotional work to other projects, but it really depends on what I'm working on. It is more of a process where people are looking for something very specific. So
okay.
I think what was important with this project is that most of the movie, maybe 90% of it, is Joybubbles narrating his own life story.
Right.
And that
very loud rain right behind me.
Someone's building their vacation home.
We had to motivate the audio.
A film teacher told me a very long time ago, the shot isn't ruined when the helicopter flies overhead, as long as you can get
a shot
of the helicopter.
Of the helicopter. But that wasn't a helicopter. You know that, right?
That's not a helicopter? Shit. So, okay. I don't want to get stuck in the nuts and bolts of it, but I do want to go back to the beginning. You read the obituary. Right. You were sparked by the idea. Where does the wealth of audio come from? And how early in the process do you realize you can ostensibly build a narrative using Joybubbles' own words, augmenting with current day interviews with people who knew him? But where does that wealth come from, and where is like the light bulb moment for you that this can be the spine? Yeah,
so I went around just shooting, talking head interviews. I wasn't really sure what the shape of the movie was going to be. And then I met a woman who's in the film named Cynthia, and she's an author, and she's going to write a book about Joybubbles. And she never did, but she was like, I have all these cassette tapes in my closet.
Oh, by the way.
Like the archival producer, documentary director's dream. And yeah, there were like 4 cassette, 90-minute cassette tapes, and he was narrating his whole life story, and that completely changed the film.
Why was he doing that?
He was giving her information for her book.
Gotcha.
So they were kind of sitting down together. She's not really asking him questions, but he was just, kind of told his whole life story from like birth up until the early 80s.
What an amazing find for you. That's incredible.
Over the years, I found other audio of him
Right.
through people. So it's just as much of a collage of audio as it is the visual elements. And that's why, I really wanted him to tell his own story in his own voice, because he had passed away. Also because he's blind, he's someone with a disability. And so that felt really important. And then the visual elements, although they're important, are there to kind of like heighten the audio, so you're really like listening to him, getting into like a meditative state of listening to him.
Well, and he's a great storyteller. He's really adept at telling his own story.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised she's not prompting him with a ton of questions, because he strikes us right out of the gate as like somebody who's great at communications.
Well, because he uses the telephone. That's what I was like. That's his instrument. So it makes total sense in a way that it would come across so complete and sort of well rehearsed. Because I bet he's done that hundreds of times.
Keith, we should stop and talk about where we are, what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So for our audience, we are a couple blocks off of Main Street. We're in a neighborhood. We just walked past the corner of Norfolk and 12th. And there's the public library right across the way, which is home to screenings. But there's also, just like a tremendous Norman Rockwell scene unfolding before our eyes over here. Rachel, will you describe the picture ahead?
There are many people with their dogs hanging out in a field of snow.
With children sledding in the background here.
It's very quaint.
Yes, it is very cool. I'm envious of these kids growing up here with such a prime sledding hill.
Yeah.
Let's walk across this frozen tundra.
Sure.
Let's risk it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I know. I'm a risk taker,
I'm
Ben.
worried about Kim, but okay.
I'm a little worried about Kim and her high heels too.
Are you okay, Kim?
Kim's working hard over there.
She's dressed for success. And she's going to have
Ooh, it is icy. Yeah.
Okay. So there is a standing archive. It's been sitting in a closet.
Yeah.
It's been waiting for the right person to come along. And of course,
Yeah.
you are that person. Why are you that person? What in this story? Fellini says all art is autobiography. And I think I agree with Fellini in this instance. Is that true for you? Is there an autobiographical look at Rachael J. Morrison in the life of Joybubbles? Is there a pull through for you?
Yeah, loneliness is a big part of the story, and I certainly have had moments where I feel lonely. I think that's also what's so universal about the story. But yeah, I think that also drew me in, and then the creative ways that he found to bring people to him. And that was through the phone, always through the phone, but not just like phone phreaking. Later in his life, he had these fun lines that he would host on a answering machine, and people would call in and they would listen to a recording that he made. So it was like a radio show.
Oh, no way.
And
that's so
you guys
cool.
didn't get to the end of the phone.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
So you have that to look forward to. But
So it was almost like his version of like a public access show or something?
yeah,
You
but
would
it was
call
all audio. It's like
What
a
years is that?
proto-podcast.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And it's I kind of look at it as like he was hacking broadcasting.
Yeah.
Because at the time, radio was live, or at least there was a schedule. You couldn't say like we can now, like, oh, I'm going to listen to this podcast at 5 p.m. today. You would just go, oh, it's on at 2 on Saturday. I have to listen to it then. But you could always
Or never
call,
again.
Right. Or you could always call his number. For 1 week, when you had it up, you'd change it every week. Could always call any time of the day and listen to that recording.
Wow.
Listen to it again, listen to part of it,
So
like you would
cool.
with a podcast, but this is in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
Right.
And I particularly love this because the term phone phreak,
Yeah.
I was not familiar with.
I'm going to need a
Right.
definition here.
Yeah, what is a phone phreak?
A phone phreak is just someone who can hack, most simply, just someone who could hack into the telephone and make free long distance calls, which back then were really expensive. We just take it for granted now.
Right.
It's hard to imagine having to pay a lot
Well,
of
we
money
do pay. We
for
just
a phone.
we committed to carrying $1,000 phone in our pocket everywhere we go and pretending like we haven't
Yeah.
just like shoveled the money over.
That's a good point.
Very true.
Yeah, because I remember fighting my parents over long distance calls in
Right.
the 80s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're right, like I was telling Ben this earlier, my son is 10 years old, and for Christmas we got him a landline.
Oh,
It's called a
cool.
tin can.
Oh, Oh, those are cool.
They're really
I kinda want
cool.
one.
They're great.
Yeah.
Like it's like a princess style phone from the late 70s that we chose.
Program in who he can call and who can call in.
It works just like a regular phone, but it has parental controls where you have speed dial to make his life easier, and he can't use it before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m. And when my wife told us she wanted this for him, I thought, he's 10, he hasn't asked for it, and we haven't exposed him to a lot of technology. Like, he doesn't have an Apple Watch or iPhone. We don't even have video games at the house. So I wasn't excited about introducing this communication technology because I just thought, well, we're opening the door to all the things we're scared of in society right now. But I was completely wrong, because what it did, he immediately got into this really cute habit of hopping on with his 5 or 6 little friends, and he'll call them, and they haven't figured out it has 3-way calling, and I'm kind of like not sharing that with him yet until
once he finds that out, it's over.
But
if he's anything like me in high school, then it's just hours.
Well, last night he was on right before I had to start packing to come here. He was on with his friend, and he told his friend a joke, and his friend's like, I want to tell the other friend the joke. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And he literally hung up on him to go call someone else to share the joke, and then call back to tell him how the other kid laughed at the joke or didn't. And it just opened up his life so much. And so you talk about like loneliness, he's an only child, and he's stuck hanging out with me and my wife all the time. And, I make him watch Antiques Roadshow and other stuff that I'm interested in.
So Theo is a phone freak, is what you're saying.
Well, he hasn't quite figured out the hacking on his own, but he might not be that far. He's an ingenious, creative little kid. But there's just something that feels so baked into our lives as kids that in a way is gone now.
For sure.
And so in the small way, we've recaptured just that with this little landline, this tin can. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that, because when I was watching your film, and yes, we still have more to watch and we're excited to, that you were hitting like so many little overlaps of like conversations that my wife and I are having, filmic conversations that I love having as somebody who loves playing in archival. My first film was about blind teenagers, and just like you handed me a card with Braille on it, in 2009 I was handing people a card with Braille on it at South by Southwest. There's something that you capture in this character that just got me kind of excited. His name is Joybubbles.
So if Joybubbles bummed you out, that would be a real bummer.
Well, I'm a little worried about the third act twist that must be coming, and we haven't gotten there yet. And I'm not going to ask you to spoil the movie one way or another. Mm-hmm. But in the same way, I got us off talking about Fellini and what your draw is to it. And you kind of talked about loneliness and finding connection. Have people seen this film? I know you're about to world premiere, so you haven't seen it with like a big audience the way you're about to. But have other people seen the film? Have people associated with the film? Those people who knew Joybubbles, do you share the film and kind of have feedback screenings or any of that as a part of the process?
Yeah, I mean, I've had feedback screenings with, friends, colleagues, people who've worked on the movie. I haven't shown it to a lot of people who don't already know the story in some way, because I've been talking about it to people for years. So I'm really excited for the premiere.
So you don't know what people are gonna grab onto or not about this film yet?
Not really. I mean, it's honestly like a pretty complex story. There's a lot going on, so I think people are gonna find different parts of it interesting. There's the phone freak part. He's someone who's blind, and there's the Joybubbles part
that I'm very excited about, because I love that name. I want to talk about phone freaks in the sense of, you mentioned that you'd seen Winnebago Man, and it feels like phone freaks are a precursor to like underground tape traders that was happening pre-YouTube, where it was like this kind of niche community around this kind of antiquated technology, which at the time wasn't antiquated, I guess, but now we look back on with fondness, because you had to pass VHS tapes around, and you could only watch it if you had the physical copy, and having a landline phone was a prerequisite to being able to hack the way that he was doing, and then having an answering machine to call in and listen to the messages. And were you ever a part of a community like that? Were you like
I traded tapes in high school. I was into jam bands.
Oh, which
my
ones?
Embarrassing moment. Phish and the Grateful Dead.
Yes.
And so it was this really
Phish
funny...
is embarrassing, Grateful Dead not so much.
I know. Grateful Dead's kind of every moment. They're cool now.
Yeah.
Phish is
I went to the Sphere and
cool.
saw him play before Bob Weir died, and it was worth it.
R.I.P. But yeah, it was this funny moment in tech where I had the internet, I had a computer, but you couldn't burn CDs yet.
Right.
So I would find communities on the internet, and we would trade tapes in the mail, and we would just copy a tape to another tape.
Yeah. Oh, you were.
And then trade them.
You were.
And like make art for like the J
cards,
liner notes.
Yeah.
So
I still have like 50 of them. In my
were you
parents'
going to Shakedown Street and selling ganja goo balls and the whole 9
Space
yards?
cakes. And
No comment.
Rachael J. Morrison, kick down so I can get down.
But yeah, I was all about like an analog world. You know, I loved cassette tapes. I still do.
Yeah. I
Like,
know, me
you know,
too. There was
making,
something
like,
about the time that it took.
mixtapes,
Like you had to be so intentional, and like
Yeah.
if you would mess up, you had to start over and rewind. Like
Right.
I remember spending, like if I was wooing a potential girlfriend, I'd spend hours, if not days, compiling like a perfect mixtape.
Or waiting for a song to play on the radio and being like,
Oh,
to record it.
Yes,
don't
yes,
have
yes.
it. I guess there's something about my growing up in my childhood similar to kind of the analog world of Joybubbles growing up.
Ben, I think you seize on an idea here of comparing the phone phreaks to the tape lending communities of the 80s and the 90s, and then where you're going, Rachel, but tying it into jamband and tapers and those kind of people who aren't content to let in a media striated world of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, where there's basically 3 voices loud in any area, right? 3 channels, 3 newspapers, a few publishers. And so the people who are drawn to that are people who find their own way to communicate.
Sure.
Right? They create their own paths. For me in college, it was passing around like Jesco White tapes.
Yeah.
And
The
like the
Dancing
stuff that
Outlaw.
became Shut Up Little Man.
Yeah.
And, early Jerky Boys.
Right.
Which is...
They were the Beatles of prank phone calls. I made a prank phone call doc, a short one about, I grew up in Kansas and Oklahoma, and there was this very famous Oklahoma prank call tape called Park Grubs, and I made a
like you
20-minute.
would play it when you called the person?
No,
Would
like
you-
they were maestros at prank calling
I
people,
see. You
and they would
listen to them
record
prank
it.
call. Okay.
Yeah, it was like Jerky Boys, but
Yeah.
funnier and weirder and an Oklahoma twist on it.
I want to see that.
And we made a version where we had to do a lot of like archival, and we faked actually a lot of the archival in that film, where we got some kids who, there were like basically 4 members, and we got them, cast them all around the same age and shot it on Super 8 and with high cameras, and then used it as like stylized reenactment, but it also cuts against actual VHS that we had of them, and so I think it passes, and you don't necessarily know. So asking you how you use, like, so there's not a lot of footage of him necessarily, but there's a lot of his voice,
Right.
and so this is where that emotional archival came
Yeah,
in. But then you also found a lot of his friends, right, that, or people who knew of him that would like call into the number and things like that.
I mean, a whole group of people who were phone phreaks who knew him, who were his friends. Some of whom he never met in person. They were just friends over the phone. And then, friends that he had in
You guys want to walk down this way?
Minneapolis. And then, people who called into his fun lines who, one of whom never met him. And I did a Kickstarter a while back. And so, I mean, there would be no way for me to find someone who called into his fun line.
Right.
But when I did the Kickstarter, a bunch of people emailed me and they were like, oh my gosh, I used to call him all the time.
Cool.
And, they still remembered him. And it's like,
It was like you put the
people-
word out and people were excited to tell you their stories.
yeah, and I mean, and their stories were amazing. And I ended up talking to a lot of those people and interviewing some of them. But yeah, he's the kind of person where, someone who knew him would kind of Google him every once in a while and be like, what happened to him?
So you mentioned Kickstarter. How long did it take you to make the film, and how did you fund it as you were going?
It took me a decade.
Yeah.
And
Really? It took you 10 years?
yeah, it took me a long time. Did the Kickstarter, that was great. And then, just along the way, a group of really awesome people came in.
Man, congratulations. This must feel amazing to have worked on something for 10 years that is premiering at Sundance. I mean, that's the best
Yeah,
premiere
it's
you could
wild.
have.
It's a perfect tee up to the line that grabbed me in the movie.
And me. Don't you try to co-opt
10
this.
minutes. When the line happened, I had a big like smiling nod, and I kind of locked it in my brain. And right after that, Ben said, ooh, that's a good line. And then I thought, I better bring it up first on the podcast because Ben's going to take all the credit for noticing the good line.
And to be fair, that's accurate.
Yes. We know each other well at this point. We're going to share credit on this one. We both, and we won't be the only ones who responded to it, but it speaks to working for 10 years on something like this and then getting a chance to share it here at Sundance. If you love something enough, it loves you back. That's a bad memory of the line. Ben, do you remember better?
I think that's right. If you love something, it will love you back.
Yeah. If you love the phone enough, it'll love you back, is what I think he's
he does say that, and then he says it without the phone. He says it in sort of like this, like, oh, that's a parable for life, which I think is why we both went, ooh.
Because it is a parable for, but that is like, I think independent filmmaking and documentary filmmaking is something that you have to love it, and it won't love you back unless you love it. It often won't love you back. Then you get slapped in the face with the reality of how little it will love you back.
Even when you do love it, sometimes doesn't love you back.
And then you just have to love harder. We were talking about this in the airport today. I'm talking about this right now. I've got a lot of projects in development, and I'm trying to figure out like where my passion is as a storyteller. Like we work so hard to get these things done, and sometimes you have to pivot and have multiple projects going at the same time.
Right.
And there's like a shiny object over here that'll kind of get your eye, but it doesn't necessarily get your heart. And you may not realize it until it's a little too late when you're in the project and you kind of can't make heads or tails of why the project isn't singing.
Right.
And you realize like, oh, because it doesn't sing to me. How can I expect to sing for other people if it doesn't sing for me? Did you, during that 10 years, ever have times when the project felt imperiled, where you felt like walking away or you felt like this is never going to get done?
Over the course of that amount of time, I definitely had moments where I thought it was never going to get done.
Yeah.
I had a lot of angry Kickstarter backers. But no, then I realized the people who were upset were actually my biggest fans because they just kept checking in and going, wait, I really want to see this.
Yeah,
so I kind of like ended up, at first I was hurt, but then I kind of realized I had to embrace it.
So how did you keep going, knowing that, this was a 10-year, often uphill battle? What was it that kept you in the fight?
Yeah, like he's just such a compelling person. I just couldn't stop thinking about him. And, it took me a long time too because I didn't go to school for documentary film. I really didn't know what I was doing when I started. And then I became an archival producer. And so through that process, really learned a lot more about filmmaking. I made a short along the way. And then I just, slowly assembled a team of really awesome people who are super creative, collaborative, knew what they were doing, and we got it in.
Talk to us about that team, and specifically what I want to know is the relationship between director and editor.
Sure.
Specifically because this film, all archival films are all documentaries are dependent on a great dynamic between director and editor editor does so much lifting. But in archival especially when it's impressionistic archival, because it's subjective, right? And there's not a right answer. You're not looking for a one-for-one. And so what's that dynamic? We'll talk about you and Bradford and where he comes from, how you guys connected and how it worked.
Sure. Well, I'll talk first about Patrick Lawrence, who started off editing the film, and he's amazing. And, he kind of laid the whole groundwork for the movie, basically made a radio edit, which I think made a lot of sense for this film. So we had all this audio and just spent a lot of time like sifting through all of it and figuring out what the story would be and laying that whole thing down. And then when Bradford came on, it was kind of like adding the visuals on top of it. And of course, still working on the story too, but really like fleshing the whole thing.
Patrick Lawrence.
Yeah.
Where's he based, and how did that relationship kick off?
He's in Los Angeles, and I was there at the time, and he had worked with one of the producers, Sarah Winshaw, on some films, and so that's how we got introduced. He loved the story, and he was amazing to work with. And then a couple years went by, and Bradford, I had already known about because I love his documentary films and his editing work, and a bunch of different people who don't know each other but know me, know him. And there was like this course of like 6 months where like 5 different people were like, you should really work with Bradford. And I hadn't met him, I didn't know him yet. And it was kind of like when the 4th or 5th person told me, I was like, I gotta see if he's available.
I gotta meet this guy.
Yeah. And we got along really well. He's so awesome to collaborate with. Like, he and Patrick, you know, when you meet really awesome people and you work with them so well, it's like, just don't want to work with anyone else.
Right. Yeah. It's like being in a band, you know, when you find somebody that like can bring your vision to life and improve it and really get you. Yeah. You want to just work with them on every project.
We all have similar tastes. So
yeah,
obviously that works really well.
And so are you sitting in the edit bay? Or are you watching cuts every couple of weeks? I'll be honest with you, I'm asking selfishly because, like Ben just said, like I've made 4 feature docs. I edited the first one, and the next 3 were all edited by Austin Reedy, who I'd be happy to edit everything I do forever and ever. But I realized that when I watch films, I don't know how anyone else does it. I didn't come up working for anybody, and I didn't go to film school, and so I didn't get that education. And something like this, like I said a moment ago, it's subjective. The choices really could go so many different directions.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just want to hear as much as you can share, as much as it makes sense to you, what those roles are and where you stop and the editor begins, who's tie breaking, who's driving.
Well, working with Patrick, you know, we're starting from 0. So we have like all these tapes and all these transcripts, and he worked on his own, but then we would get together a lot, you know, and just talk. Make cards on a bulletin board, you know, kind of your classic workflow.
Yeah,
and
looking for the 3x structure, with the cards.
Yeah, and like it was a lot to sift through, watching all the interviews. I just have many hours of him talking from different places, so not just the tapes from Cynthia, but other sources of tapes. It was difficult because the material is just so rich, so just figuring out which stories are the best and all of that. But yeah, we would hang out, and then he would work on his own, and you know, he'd send me things. I would watch them, listen to them, give him notes. That was kind of our collaboration. And then Bradford and I actually, we had coffee a couple times, but we mostly worked remote. He would send me things. Talked on the phone a lot.
Do I remember correctly that he's somewhere like Alabama or?
He's in LA now.
Who am I thinking of?
He was in Alabama for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, because when I met him and they were premiering Reading Rainbow, they were living in a small town in Alabama or something.
Yeah, I think, you're right. But no, we were both in LA and we met in person and we got along, and he was available and I was so stoked. So he would call me like almost every day and talk about things with me, ideas that he had or things he wanted to change, whatever. I don't really like working with someone where they sort of disappear for a week.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's because they're doing something genius, you know? And then they give you something back and you're like, oh, I really wish I was knowing you were doing that 3 days ago, you know? So, yeah, but it's funny now with everyone being virtual to live 10 minutes away from someone and, you know.
Still working.
Yeah. But it worked out really great. I ended up moving to New York this year, and it was basically the same experience.
Well, I'm curious to know, you mentioned that you didn't go to school for filmmaking.
Yeah.
And so I want to know where you went to school, what you studied, and then how you found your way into becoming an archival producer.
Sure.
Because that's such a specific part of the film business that I think, frankly, not a lot of people know even exists.
Right. Yeah. I went to Bard and I studied studio art.
With a concentration, where?
Just art, just making art.
All right.
Sculpture, painting, drawing. And then while I was in school, I worked at the art library. And I was like, this is a cool job. This would be a cool day job to have while I'm trying to have an art practice. So moved to New York and I ended up working at MoMA in their library, which is just a total dream job.
Yeah, amazing.
And then I moved out to LA and I was like, there must be something like a research job for documentary films. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was called an archival producer, but I ended up meeting some people and just kind of got really lucky, fell into it. Like research has always been, research is my background, that and making art. So that all comes together in the film. Yeah.
So if somebody's listening who wants to get into archival research and producing, how would you recommend they do that.
Make a bunch of friends and get on a project with another archival producer so you can learn the ropes.
Yeah.
I was lucky to have gotten hired on a project with someone else who had been doing it for years and, you know, showed me how it all works. And yeah.
Archival producing strikes me as like the kind of job that is similar to like music supervising, one of the few roles that is equal parts creative and administrative.
Yeah.
Right?
No, if you don't like doing spreadsheets, it is not the job for you. It's not just like having fun on the internet, looking stuff up. It's a lot of spreadsheets.
And the licensing portion of it too. Like, do you do? Are you negotiating those licenses?
Yeah, I do. I do all of that. So it's like doing the research, organizing everything in a spreadsheet, and then getting permission.
So for our listeners who may not understand what we're talking about, when you license a clip, when you find a piece of archival you want to use in your movie, you have to reach out to the person who owns that or who made it and strike an agreement with them to pay them for the use of that clip. I think it's pretty basic, but I also think this is for people starting out. So like,
I don't think it is basic at all, though, because it's like sometimes you're talking to somebody who's got a trove of home movies and it's never even occurred to them that they could license a thing. Sometimes you're talking to a Hollywood studio who's like making a fortune kind of doling out this important and treasured library that they've got. Sometimes you're in between with nonprofit libraries and university institutions. It's like there's no one-stop way to do it, right? Like every conversation is a unique relationship.
Yeah, and also fair use.
Right, which is a
I'm not even going to get into that.
No, let's get into it just a little. Let's get into it a little.
There's a lot of fair use in Joybubbles.
Yes. Well, and in every film I've ever made. Because as an indie...
everything I've worked on.
doc director.
Big stuff.
You can't pay often to, to license a scene from 30 Rock or whatever it is.
Totally, yeah.
So fair use is a way that you can use it for free if you're commenting on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a variety of approaches, but fair use is limited. It's the United States doctrine. It's not an international doctrine. So if your film is going to get out and have a worldwide audience, fair use isn't going to always cut it.
Well, we're back at the car. We're breathing heavy because we're walked up the hill. We want to be respectful of your time and Kim's high heels. So. At the end here, we want to do a lightning round.
Well, let's jump right to the lightning round, though. Before we get to the lightning round, we
catch our breath.
We've caught our breath. We're catching our breath, right? We've taken a loop around this cute little neighborhood. We've been having a lovely walk and getting to know Rachel and her work, Joybubbles, which is premiering here at Sundance. You folks aren't going to get a chance to see it for a little while. But I hope that we have planted enough of a seed where you're excited about it and holding on to it, and that we will not only rebroadcast this conversation when the film is widely available, but most people come into Sundance looking for distribution. I want to get kind of like, what's the lowdown on the future for Joybubbles? What do you know and what do you hope?
I know nothing.
Okay.
So you're primarily hoping to find a buyer,
now.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're probably working with a sales agent, sales reps. Yeah. And we got connected through your PR team at 42 West. So you've got everything in place. You're here to sell your film.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, mostly because I want lots of people to experience this movie.
Yeah.
You know, that's the goal. Like, the more people who can check out Joybubbles, the better. I mean, you make it for an audience.
The more joy that will bubble up.
True.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me.
Yeah.
She's a jaded New Yorker. She's not so impressed with your shucks.
Neither is my wife. So, I get it.
What do you hope people get with? Like, what joy bubbling do you like? Is there a message you hope the film kind of communicates?
Yeah, I think sharing love and communication and connecting with people is really like the heart and sort of the universal message of the film, like in its most simplistic way.
That's great. And you're doing that by making a doc about it and here to share it and communicate and spread that. So kudos. That's really awesome. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing this time with us.
Yeah, thank you. This was really fun.
Okay, let's do a quick lightning round.
Lightning.
Okay, so these are supposed to be brief. We usually are guilty of stretching them out, but let's see.
I'm bad at recall.
Oh no, it's not about that.
It's not about
3
like,
questions.
my favorite movie.
Well, one of them is. Let's
But
start
it's not
there.
favorite. But it's not favorite.
It's not favorite. It's the gateway drug movie. What was the doc that you saw that a light bulb went off and you said, I want to make documentaries?
Yeah. The first or the early.
Gates of Heaven.
Oh, Errol Morris's first doc.
Yeah.
Why?
I just love that movie. It's so strange. And it's art, you know?
Yes,
Like,
it's beautiful.
there are docs that are art and there are other docs, but he's really an artist.
Yeah.
And that movie is just, when I saw it years and years and years and years ago,
Yeah.
it, like,
Where were you in your life when you saw it?
I mean, I wasn't making docs. I had no intention of making docs, but I was like an art school student, so, you know. Loved
The
it.
scene I will always
And it
remember is the wide shot of the owner of the pet cemetery at his desk. It's symmetrically framed. It's beautiful. There's all the things on the wall behind him, and he's answering a very staid interview question, and one of the plaques falls off the wall, and his reaction in that moment is, mwah, it just says everything about. That's what makes Errol Morris an artist. To include that and to like linger in that
Right.
moment is something that I think a lot of people would cut out, and he revels in that.
Yeah, I love the way he set up all the talking heads in the
Yeah.
film, because
Yeah.
he really thought about where they were sitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. That's a great one. We haven't heard that one yet.
I'm going to jump in with one. Who is a dream collaborator for you? Especially like you're an archival producer, you're helping people bring their vision to life. You bring your own vision to life by building a team. Who out there haven't you worked with, but you would be pretty excited to if your phone rang?
This is like such an obvious question for me, Matt Wolf.
Oh, that's why you watched the
He's-
Matt Wolf episode that you said.
Well, yeah, I'm obsessed with him,
Yeah.
envy his career, always uses archival in such a beautiful way. I really wish I'd worked on
I know, it's so good. Okay, and then last one, what can you not stop thinking about right now? I can't stop thinking about the background noise, which we have to get another shot of here.
Yeah.
That helicopter over there?
Right
Enormous
now?
crane right behind us.
Right now or like right now?
Right now. Like,
Life.
yes.
I'm really excited about the rollout of the film. I'm excited to see what happens, where it plays, how it's received. And then I'm excited about a new project that I'm starting.
Ooh, tell.
Already.
Hints. Give us hints.
Yeah.
Breadcrumbs.
Off camera.
I get it. I get it.
I'm not giving it away.
I get not wanting to jinx something.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
you're
we'll
thinking
see,
about your film you're premiering and then the film you're starting.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Have a great festival.
How can people find the movie?
I think it's either Joybubbles movie or Joybubbles the movie is both Instagram and but very small website.
This episode is sponsored in part by the Austin Film Society, the 40-year-old film institution founded by Richard Linklater. Austin Film Society supports nonfiction filmmaking year-round through its monthly Doc Nights series at AFS Cinema, along with its annual documentary film festival, Doc Days, held every May. Learn more at austinfilm.org. This episode is also sponsored by The Long Time. The Long Time is a one-of-a-kind event space located in Austin, Texas, hosting everything from sandlot baseball to commercial film shoots, art exhibitions to surprise weddings. It's the perfect home for your next creative gathering. The Long Time is the home of the Texas Playboys Baseball Club, the host of the annual Wizard Rodeo, and available for private events year-round. Learn more at thelongtime.com.
Next time on Doc Walks. We are still at Sundance, at least as far as these episodes go. We're taking it to the streets, Main Street, that is. Ben and I will greet the people. We will track down filmmakers, film fans, film programmers, anyone really willing to step up to the mic and share their thoughts on this year's Sundance, this year's slate of films, and this year in independent filmmaking coming up. So please join us next time on Doc Walks. Doc Walks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at DocWalksPod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.